Hello, Crossville First. It's Drew here on Wednesday, September 13th, 2017, about 9 o'clock in the morning. I want to talk with you a little bit about the spiritual gifts inventory that we've been working on, that many of you have taken already. Others are thinking about taking it. About 120 people have actually completed the inventory and turned that back into us so that we could score it and give them their results, their spiritual gifts profile. And in all of that, we've had a lot of wonderful reactions, a lot of folks learning things about themselves that they didn't know before. Folks excited to have something that says these are gifts that we see in your life and in how you live. We've also had some other reactions that have been a surprise to me, to be quite honest. One of those is I didn't expect how many folks have never taken anything like this, whether it be a personality profile or some other kind of survey or inventory or test about some aspect of life. A lot of you have never done that, and I just didn't think about that, to be quite honest, when we started working on this. And so I want to apologize for springing something on you that has felt extremely overwhelming. 200 questions about how you live and how you practice your faith. They're very personal questions, and they can seem very critical at times. And that's not the intent of the inventory. It's just how the questions are asked to get at the information that we're trying to help you uncover as you find God's dream, God's call on your own life. And so I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry I didn't prepare you more for that than I did. I should have thought about it and I didn't. And so I offer you my apologies for that and hope you'll forgive me for making that assumption. The next thing that I want to talk about is some of you have been worried about who will see your individual answers. Each of you answered 200 questions, and those 200 questions go in a database. We have a spreadsheet that computes and calculates and gives your spiritual gifts profile. Really, nobody looks at your individual questions. I can see them if I want to because I'm the one that has the login to the SurveyMonkey system. But 120 people have taken it, and I don't have time to look at 120 people times 200 answers. So no one's seeing that. No one but me can see it. And the only thing that we see as a committee on nominations is what your gift profile is. And that's basically what are your top 5 gifts. We're not worried about the score. We're not worried about what we thought they ought to be. We're just worried about what are we learning about each other and from each other. And then you get that letter that comes directly from me that has your top 5 gifts with their scores and then all the other gifts and how you scored on them. That's kind of how this process is working. So don't worry that people are flipping through your survey book and making judgments based on the fact that you answered a question about evangelism as something that you very seldom do or never do. So don't feel judged by that, and don't feel like anybody's poking into the data and selecting those things out to make decisions. That's not what this is about at all. The biggest thing I wanted to address is that some folks have shared with me that they have felt a sense of shame or guilt or inadequacy as they have taken this survey. And I am deeply sorry about that. Again, that's another one of those things that's not the intent of the survey. The way the document, the instrument has been created, it asks very specific questions and it invites you to make the best answer that you can, really intuitively or off the top of your head without trying to think too much about it. And so when you have questions like that, they have to be short, they have to be to the point. And one of the side effects of those kinds of questions is that they can make us feel like we should be doing more. I feel guilty that I don't do that. Oh, I should do that. Maybe this means I'm not a good Christian. Again, not what this is about at all. If the Holy Spirit brings something to your mind through this and you want to work on it, wonderful. It did for me when I took it. And so that's part of the journey. But ultimately, this is about getting to know how God has gifted you. And it makes a big assumption that if God has gifted you in some way, you're probably already using that gift at least a little bit. And so you may have a score of 20 out of 40. It's not like a B, C, D, F type scoring system. It's just a way to help us discern, tease out what are the gifts that God has given each one of us. The hope is that it's a tool for our journey of discipleship. It's a tool to help us follow Jesus more closely, and perhaps to recognize things that we've never recognized within ourselves before, things that you are already doing, things that God has already brought into your life, poured into your life. I'm looking at an email from one of our leaders in the church, and this person wrote, "So I took the survey. It was long, and it kind of makes me feel bad about myself. I feel like I'm missing out on the whole speaking in tongues thing. I'm not a healer. I'm not as generous as I would like to think I am. I don't serve lots of churches. But," she writes this, "but I stand firm in my knowledge that God is love, that He loves me and you and everyone else, and that I'm not afraid to tell folks about Him. It was a good survey," she says, "and I will be looking forward to hearing about the results." I hope that we can all feel that way as we do this. It is a long survey. It does make us really think, but it's not to make us feel judged or to feel guilty or to feel shame in any way. It is instead a tool so that we can discern how God is calling us as individuals and even as a church. Especially, it's about finding God's dream for your life. And to do that, sometimes you have to ask some tough questions that cause us to step back and reflect. And so I'll be praying for you. I hope you'll be praying for each other and for me as we all process what we're learning from this spiritual gifts inventory. One of the key elements of this that we did a little bit out of order is we all really need to find a place, a group, with which to study what we've learned. And those groups are happening in Sunday school classes and in small groups. If you're not in a Sunday school class or a small group, we have a series of this that will take place on Wednesday nights, starting I think September 20th, a week from tonight. And we'll be offering it as well at a later time on a day other than Wednesday for folks who can't make it on Wednesday night. It's just going to be important that we study this and unpack it together. As we unpack it together, I think what we will find is not judgment and shame, but the wonderful gift of God's grace that is at work in all of our lives. So let's hold that in our hearts. If you haven't taken that thing yet, I hope you will, and I hope you'll take it with a spirit of inquisitiveness about God's gifts in your own life, and not as something that will make you feel bad or guilty. I love you very much. I appreciate your patience as we learn from this and try to figure out what it looks like as we go forward. We'll see a lot of you tonight for Wednesday night, and the rest of you we'll hope to see Sunday morning. I love you. Bye-bye.